Why, hello there, I'm Professor Joel, and welcome to another episode of Planet Scooby Reviews. Today we are covering Scooby Doo and a Mummy 2, and it originally aired on November 29th, 1969. This is episode 12 of season 1 of Scooby Doo Where Are You? And this episode sees the gang caught up in an ancient mummy curse on a university campus where people are being turned into stone. This wasn't an episode I remembered watching much as a kid, so I wasn't too excited to review this one. I don't remember much about the episode going in, so I kind of figured maybe it wasn't the best episode. Although I do like mummies and I do like Egyptian lore and all that stuff, so maybe this could be a good episode too. So I went in with an open mind. So is this episode good or is it the weakest of season 1? Let's find out. The episode begins on a university campus in front of the building for the Department of Archaeology. Inside we meet the professor and Dr. Najib, along with the mummified corpse of Anka. The gang are informed that Anka was once the most feared ruler of ancient Egypt. How ancient? Well, over 3,000 years old. Thanks to Dr. Najib, the mummy completes the replica of Anka's tomb. Dr. Najib is worried, however, as a curse may have followed the mummy to the exhibit.
This is the mummy of Anka, once the most feared ruler of ancient Egypt. Anka is over 3,000 years old. Thanks to Dr. Najib, the mummy of Anka completes the university's replica of his tomb.
I only hope that the curse of Anka did not follow, Professor. Anka vowed that if he were ever removed from his tomb, he would come back to life and turn those responsible to stone. I bid you all good night.
The curse goes that Anka vowed if he was ever removed from his tomb that he would come back to life and turn those responsible into stone. Dr. Najib sees himself out and the gang stay back to help the professor out. Shaggy inquires about a coin with a scarab on it, and the professor tells him that it's part of an ancient mystery that he hasn't been able to solve yet. Before we learn any more about the coin, the professor sends the gang downtown to get some sandwiches. Moments after the gang leave, the professor is studying at his desk where he hears the sound of breaking glass. Getting up to inspect the noise, he sees a silhouette of a bandaged man walking past his office door. In the hallway, the glass entrance door has been smashed, and the tomb of the mummy is empty. The mummy has vanished. At the malt shop, the gang get 3 hamburgers and 3 liverwurst sandwiches, a la mode. Can we just pause for a moment here to question who these gross sandwiches are for? Counting the professor, there are 6 people getting food, with 3 being the hamburgers and 3 being the liverwurst sandwiches with strawberry ice cream. Obviously, 2 of the 3 liverwurst sandwiches are for Scooby and Shaggy, but is the 3rd sandwich meant for the professor, or is it for Daphne, Velma, or Freddy? Anyway, the whole order comes to $1.50.
The 3 hamburgers, 3 liverwurst, a la mode. That'll be $1.50. What kind of kooky 50-cent piece is this?
Which works out to be 25 cents a sandwich, and Shaggy goes to pay for the order, but pulls out the Egyptian coin. Slightly embarrassed, the gang return to the Department of Archaeology with the sandwiches and the coin. Inside the professor's office, the lights are off. When Velma turns on the lights, they see that the professor has been turned into stone, and they realize the mummy is alive and well. Inspecting the mummy case, they confirm it is empty. They also see the glass door he escaped out of has shattered glass on the inside of the door, meaning the glass door broke with someone coming inside the building, not leaving. The gang split up with Velma, Scooby, and Shaggy going one way and Daphne and Freddy going in another direction.
Like what kind of a clue? The mummy, what else?
Scooby is the first to run into the mummy, who has been hiding in a janitor closet. Shaggy locks the mummy in the closet long enough so they can run away. However, the mummy breaks out and catches up in the Egyptian display. Here, Velma disguises herself as Cleopatra while Scooby hides in some urns. The charade doesn't last long and they are confronted by the mummy, who asks for the coin. Scooby slams down a box of Scooby snacks and gets some Scooby snacks courage to distract the mummy long enough so they can escape. Outside, Daphne and Freddy spot footprints and follow them. The footprints disappear in an area where they are building an addition to the gym. Outside is also Dr. Najib's car, where we find him turned into stone as well. Velma finds a shred of the tape the mummy was wrapped in and feels that it is not 3,000 years old. So Scooby and Velma and Shaggy head off to the school lab to test it. Before she can get her results, the mummy reappears and Velma creates a diversion with some chemicals, creating some smoke so they can escape. Leaving the lab, Shaggy and Velma meet up with Freddy and Daphne. However, Scooby is missing and must have been nabbed by the mummy while they were trying to get away. Outside, Shaggy discovers that Scooby has been turned into stone. And in a nearby shed, Scooby emerges out of a hole he's dug as Shaggy mourns his loss. Happy to have retrieved Scooby, the gang go back to investigate more about the mummy. In a book the professor is researching, Velma exclaims that Anka, the mummy, was the richest ruler of Egypt. She also spots a statue that has the same scarab image as the coin Shaggy has.
According to the professor's research, not only was Anka the most feared ruler of ancient Egypt, but the richest. What about the coin? Look at the design work on the statue in this photo. It looks like a picture puzzle to me. And take a look at one of the pictures in that puzzle when it's magnified.
It's the same as the coin.
The mummy bursts in, so the gang take off to the wood shop on the second floor. Danger-prone Daphne activates a power saw that cuts a hole in the ground, which sends them into the school's Olympic pool. In a fit of rage, the mummy throws the power saw, still plugged in, at them. Fortunately, the gang are on the wooden flooring and floating on the pool, so they are not electrocuted. But the power saw does give them a scary chase. Resting on the pool's change room benches, Shaggy sits on the mummy's lap, and Shaggy and Scooby separate from the gang as they run away. Our duo run into an area where they discover bags of quick-drying mold cement along with molds for statues. Realizing that the duo have found out how the mummy was making the stone statues, the mummy begins sealing up the entranceway brick by brick so the two will be trapped inside the shed. Inside the shed, they also find the professor in a canvas bag, and he is gagged. Rather than letting him go, Shaggy keeps him tied up and puts the gag back on him and tells the professor that they'll be right back.
Are you all right, Professor?
I'm fine.
Groovy, be back for you later.
Using an electric power mower, Shaggy smashes through the shed wall and they crash into the gymnasium. Scooby is riding the power mower and it crashes into the mummy, and they bounce across a series of gym equipment until the mummy becomes entangled in a basketball net. Removing the bandages, they discover that the mummy is Dr. Najib.
Dr. Najib!
The episode ends with the professor explaining that Dr. Najib knew the secret of the coin, but when he broke in to steal it, the professor surprised him, so he kidnapped him.
But when I surprised him, he had to tie me up in the shack.
He also realized the gang had the coin when he couldn't find it in the display, so he waited for them to come back. Freddy then solves the coin puzzle on the hippo statue and unlocks a huge diamond scarab worth a fortune. Scooby also finds the real mummy tucked away between two plants. Oddly, this mummy has a zombified face, whereas the mummy we saw at the start of the episode didn't. With another mystery solved, the gang wraps up with Scooby giving his famous tagline. I give this episode an 8.5 out of 10. I thought going in this would be like a 6 because I didn't really remember it much. And I thought it'd be maybe a weaker episode because, well, I do like mummies. They are kind of boring. They walk around slow and they just kind of groan and all. They're not the most scariest things, but this episode charmed the pants off of me. The mummy isn't particularly scaring. Well, actually the zombified mummy at the end they showed, the real mummy, he's kind of creepy. I kind of wish they went with that, but I could see why they didn't. But the actual mummy, not so creepy, but the actual set pieces for this episode of the school campus, that is creepy. The school campus at night with this mummy walking around, that provides a lot of atmosphere. And I like the fact that the campus was under construction because they were building an addition to the gymnasium. And that explained how Dr. Najib obtained all this concrete for his statues. I thought that was cool. I also enjoyed how Shaggy sat on the mummy's lap. That scene was funny, and the scene where Shaggy puts the gag back in the professor's mouth and tells him he'll be right back, that was hilarious. That was really funny. So that's why I give this an 8.5 out of 10. Also, I didn't watch this episode a lot as a kid, and I didn't remember too much of it either, so that might explain why I appreciated this a little more as an adult. Next week, we will be covering which is which. Until then, stay spooky.
It's the creepy coin collector again.
Coin, coin. Coin, coin.
Now go.
I bid you all good night.